Hi
conversation.
guys, Xavier about them. We're started. I see it's 6 o'clock our time. So I want to thank you guys. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. My name is Bert Wright. I am going to be your moderator this evening. I graduated from UCR in 1999. And I'm also a full-time entrepreneur as well there too. So it's my pleasure to welcome you tonight to our tonight's Alumni Association panel focused on entrepreneurship. As you know, oftentimes these events are often held live and in person, but given our current dynamics, what's going on in the world and the marketplace, we have had to shift to a virtual environment. So I'm glad for wherever you are in the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you guys for watching this. And for the replayers or those watching the recording, thank you once again for joining us as we're here today as well there too. So I'm excited today that we have three recent graduates of UC Riverside to talk about their experience as regarding entrepreneurship. And this program, once again, has been made possible by the UCR Alumni Association. If you currently are not a member of the Alumni Association, you should become one. I highly recommend it. I'm a lifetime member, so I'm a strong proponent of becoming a member of the Alumni Association. You can take advantage of programs such as this, program opportunities to network with other people within from UCR who graduated, and we are currently over 120,000 strong alumni from UCR with it too. So throughout this moment, you will have many opportunities to ask questions, post questions. Please use the chat feature at any given moment to post a question in the chat feature. You can even either send it to me directly or post it for everybody to see. And at some point during our session today, we will allow people, we'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can, especially regarding to entrepreneurship. Today's audience comprises people from all walks of life, from alumni to staff and faculty, to even community members, to even current students on this campus were there too. So I think we'll have a very diverse and robust conversation about entrepreneurship tonight there too. So any question you have, feel free to ask there. And if you missed any part regarding tonight's session, as long as you're registered, you will get a copy of that recording sent to you after it's been processed and sent to you guys with it too. So, but before we start today, it's my pleasure to allow May Tambras. She is from the Blackstone Launchpad Entrepreneur Residence Program at UCR to offer some opening remarks. May, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Bert, and I would like to welcome everyone and thank you very much for joining us. My name is May Timraz and I'm an entrepreneur myself. I joined UCR a year ago as an entrepreneur in residence for the UCR's Office of Technology Partnerships that mainly facilitates the development and commercialization of ideas emerging from UCR and our community. I'm also the program lead for the Blackstone Launchpad and Techstars here at UCR. Launchpad helps UCR students succeed in entrepreneurship and in their careers by providing them with access to a lot of workshops and events similar to this one that we're partnering here with the Alumni Association, in addition to mentorship, funding, and a lot of resources. All this to help them take their ideas from concept to launch. And we're also lucky that we were able to work with both of the panelists here tonight, Xavier and Val. To learn more about us, we'll have our social media accounts later here that you can follow us. I will also put my email if you want to reach out and learn more about our fall programs, because we have really very busy programs this fall. And again, thank you very much, everyone, and we'll give it back to you, Bert.
Thank you, Maya, for your words today. It's our pleasure to partner with the Launchpad here at UCR and to the great work you currently are doing with our current students and our alumni as well there too. So before we get started, I want to shift the conversation here once again. I want to remind you that if you have any questions you want us to have a chance to try to answer during this call today, please type it into the chat message. We'll take note of those, and throughout the course of the call, we'll do our best to address those questions while there too. But before we get started, I want to introduce our panelists today. And as I have our panelists speak briefly, I want you to have a chance, I want the panelists to take a moment to introduce yourself, tell a little about yourself, and also why you got interested in entrepreneurship. But first, I'm going to tell you who they are first, and then I'm going to call one by one to allow them to be able to tell them about themselves and how to get involved in entrepreneurship. And I'm going to start first with what I see on my current. I have Xavier Hernandez. Secondly, we have today on the panel, we have Val Salamaki. I apologize, Val. My apologies for that. And so, try to make head into my heart. And we have Kubra Salam, who also goes by Kubi today. So, Xavier, you can go ahead and go first. Tell us a bit about yourself and what piqued your interest, what got you interested in becoming an entrepreneur? You're muted.
I'm muted. Hey guys, this is Xavier. I graduated from UCR December 2018, And then I launched my first robotic startup January, as soon as I graduated. And that went all the way up to January 2020. And I got hired in Microsoft to be a project coordinator here, working on an internal data product for Amazon. And I'm over here in Seattle.
Awesome.
What interested me in entrepreneurship, I think since the very beginning, I was always interested in projects, but I think something that I've been seeing with our generation, I've been talking to Val about this a little bit, is we kind of see business as a vehicle to change the world and the way we want to change it in. So it's not only about, making money, but once we have that money, how do we go back and invest that again into creating these mechanisms to, move the world a step closer to what we want it to be. And that's kind of what got me into it. And since then, I've kind of been hooked.
Awesome. Thank you, Xavier. Glad to have him on the call here today. Val, you want to say anything, a little bit about yourself and share about what your interest about entrepreneurship?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Val. I'm a double alumnus from UC Riverside. So I actually did my graduated in 2018. I was studying marketing, finance, and information systems, and then I ended up doing my MBA at UC Riverside right after. I studied information systems and marketing. My background has clearly heavily been in marketing. So I've worked at Esri for about 3 years, worked at PepsiCo, worked at a couple other companies. So I've had the mixed taste of corporate America as well as entrepreneurship. But my background was actually in athletics. So when I came to college, I kind of lost that competitive advantage of like being in sports. And I've always been super competitive, and I found that passion in entrepreneurship. So I wanted to be in a space that the only person you can both blame and reward is yourself, because that's the reality of entrepreneurship. So I wanted to put myself in that environment. I am a serial entrepreneur, so I do own JViz Barbershop, part of it that's in the UV, state-based clothing and clothing brand in the Bay Area, as well as a digital consultancy called Free Logic Media. And I'm currently working on an audio technology startup called Edge Sound Research, which develops audio technologies that allow you to both feel and hear sound in high definition.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Thank you, Rob, for that. Greatly appreciate it. Kubi, if you're able, can you share a little about yourself and your entrepreneurship interest and background?
Sure. I hope everyone is able to hear me. My connection has definitely been going in and out. But yeah, my name is Kubi. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, I graduated UC Riverside in December of 2019. So I'm recent. A little bit about my background. I've always been in entrepreneurship. So from a very young age, I've been surrounded by it. I've been very much in love with it. But when I first started my company, I didn't start it with the intention of having a business. I started with the intention of just having extra money to spend at the ice cream truck. And so over time, as I continued to do it and continue to grow and try to make it resemble who I was becoming, it actually became very successful. And so I actually attribute a lot of that success to UCR, and not only what I was able to learn at UCR, but the people who I was able to meet, the organizations I was able to join on campus. A lot of different factors actually helped contribute to my growth. But overall, my entire journey from the point I started my first business to now has just been about trying to be better and trying to see how I can be creative and be independent, because that's really something I'm very passionate about, being independent, being able to, just support myself and just stand on my own 2 feet. So I think entrepreneurship is a very efficient way for me to do that. And I've been appreciative of all the opportunities I've been able to get as a result of my entrepreneurship and my spirit to want to just do things a different way and do things to the beat of my own drum. So yes, my journey has definitely been interesting.
Thank you, Kubi, for that. I appreciate that. I definitely want to, understand that entrepreneur journey. I'm entrepreneur myself, been full-time for about 8 years now. And it definitely is something that is a journey, it's a process, and it's definitely not for the faint of heart, no matter how you look at there as well there too. And I want to highlight what David said, as far as, that entrepreneurship can be a vehicle for social change. I believe that entrepreneurship can be a vehicle for social change. I always define myself as a social entrepreneur as well there too. So, and as I mentioned earlier in my introduction, I graduated in 99. It's been almost 20 years. Can't believe how fast time's come on by. But since that time, UCR has made great strides in many actions and resources and programs to help current students and our alum succeed as entrepreneurs. Can each of you, each of you who taken the time, talk about your experience with Launchpad or any of the UCR resources that are available to help you succeed as an entrepreneur? And anyone can start first.
I can start it off. So I actually had the privilege to be part of
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Oh.
Go ahead, Xavier. Then Kubi's next. Go ahead, Xavier.
Gotcha. Yeah, I had the privilege to be part of the UCR I-Course program before anything else, where we learned a lot about customer discovery and C. Blank's customer obsession model. And then right after that, I also had the privilege of being one of the first people in the Launchpad program. Oh my God, the experience was amazing. We were flown to New York, and it was, after going through the UCR program and learning about, who are all these entrepreneurs in Riverside, near my college, that are working on these businesses, and then going to New York and getting together with, the top New York East Coast schools and then all of the UCs, and presenting on, what it is their business and what they were able to take their businesses from in the first 3 months, and seeing them pitch and just communicating with them and absorbing stuff with them, and getting access to these mentors by Techstars and Blackstone. I was just able to grow so much from that experience. So I really want to thank first the UCR I-Course program for, I think that's the best way to start off with a problem definition, identifying a customer, and then the Blackstone program that's later down the pipeline. Oh my God, that helped so much with expanding your scope of how you think about businesses and who you think are doing them and how big they can get so quickly.
Awesome. Thank you, Xavier. Val, Kubi, you're next.
I'm kind of hesitant to talk now because I know my is really horrible. So I apologize for that. But yeah, my experience with Launchpad and just the resources on UCR's campus has been actually very positive. For anyone who isn't aware, UCR has so many opportunities for you to utilize free resources like Lynda. They have Adobe in the Creative Center. They have free paper for you to create posters. They have so many different types of resources. And I sadly didn't discover Launchpad until I was about to graduate. And for anyone who is currently a senior or about to graduate, you understand how easy it is to get wrapped up in that process. And so for me, I couldn't even try to use any of the resources at that time because I was so busy trying to prepare to leave college. And so unfortunately, I wish I had discovered it earlier, but there are so many very cool things that you can do to Launchpad, and they have a lot of opportunities for you to be able to express your ideas as an entrepreneur and get the guidance you need to actually make that idea a reality. And so I definitely encourage those of you who are still on campus to look into that and to really try to use it to your advantage. And again, I know my Wi-Fi is really bad right now, so please bear with me.
Thank you. We can hear you fine right now, so we'll keep our fingers crossed. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Val, you want to share about your experience with Launchpad?
Yeah, of course. So my experience when it comes to UCR, just entrepreneurial resources, is quite unique because when I came to UC Riverside, we didn't even have I-Core or any of these programs that were being discussed. They were being developed at that point in time and being brought to the campus. So when I came to UC Riverside, I personally I already knew I wanted to get into entrepreneurship, but I didn't really know where to get started. I did have some contacts and I tried to leverage my own networks, but it's really hard. Don't get me wrong. Entrepreneurship is a long, hard journey. It's a roller coaster of a ride. And the beauty of how UCR has built this ecosystem around entrepreneurship is it's guiding you through that pathway that takes years and years of experience to actually get through. So it really speed tracks your development. And I'm a living case study of that. So aside from my consulting company, my audio company, that's all because of the resources from campus. So that idea didn't come to light until November 2019. And there was a complete idea from my co-founder, who's a PhD student studying audio technologies. And both me and him started looking at the audio technology and realized that there's a lot of market potential. So right after that, we were able to present in front of OTP, Office Technology Partnerships, to potentially get a grant for the technology, but we realized it had a product potential. And little did we know, May and the rest of the office actually nominated us, and we were flown to Las Vegas a couple of months after to present at CES, which was a crazy experience. It's 190,000 people all around the world. We were able to network, get a bunch of connections there. Then we went to another trade show, got more connections. Then we participated in the I-Core program, did customer discovery. From there, we've been contacted and we participated in a program called VentureWell, another Launchpad, and a fellowship. And they're all because of contacts from UC Riverside. So we've only been building this audio technology company now for, I think, 8 months. And in those 8 months, we've been able to get where most companies get to in about 3 years. And that's all thanks to all the opportunities, connections we get through Launchpad, iCore, and all the different programs we have at UC Riverside.
That's awesome, Val. Can you speak to, I know Xavier mentioned the learning about how to identify your customer. When you talk about from your experience, was there a specific resource that Launchpad offered you or helped you provide it with? You talk about how it's helped you to accelerate your growth potential. Was there a specific resource they provided that you think of that stood out to you?
The Techstars network. So I by far have to say that that's the biggest connection, is kind of facilitating and getting you into a bigger network. So in entrepreneurship, it's great to be in an ecosystem like Inland Empire and talk with locals there. But as you're trying to expand ideas, you want to talk with people all across the globe, all in different market areas, talk to as many people that might be able to then connect you with another person. And that's by far what Launchpad allowed us to do, is by connecting us with the right people to start those conversations. So we never really got stuck. We've always been able to get to that next level. And Launchpad's provide every single one of those opportunities for us.
Awesome. Kuba, do you have anything you want to share with that? Or Xavier, you want to add any additional specific resources you experienced with Launchpad?
No, I think just the overall program is good. And as long as you have actual desire to want to grow your entrepreneurship or to grow your business or whatever the case is, as long as you have a desire to grow that, I think that the people over at Launchpad are willing to help you get there. So just explore it and just figure out what are you trying to get to and how can you utilize the campus resources that you already paid for? How can you utilize those resources to help you move forward?
And then to add to that, I don't know if Launchpad absorbed NSF iCore, but there is this program on campus. It's called the NSF iCore program, where you're basically funded by the National Science Foundation to go around and interview your customers and your potential customers and find out what their pain points are. So they'll pay for your flights or your conferences, your gas mileage, some of the meals, and they'll pay for part of your initial prototype costs too.
Awesome. And this is a great time for a quick segue from May. I want to bring on real quick here for Sharon. I hear about a couple of tech companies that have gone through Launchpad. Kubi sounds like she's more of a service-based business. Can anybody with any entrepreneurial idea access Launchpad to be successful?
Yes, so it's not just for tech companies, it's open for all students. We focus on undergrad and grad students, but also recent alumni can benefit from all of the opportunities we have, like the recent graduate in the last 2 years can still benefit from all of the opportunities. NSF iCore is a separate program, but we participate in it heavily, and it's a really great opportunity for those who does have an idea, but they still don't know if it's really working, if before they develop it, they want to know if the customer wants what they are developing. So it's just testing it before putting a lot of money and time into developing something that there's no market fit for it. So it's a great opportunity, and students get paid to participate. So it's really a lot of great resources. And I will share new platform that we just launched that is also open for students, alumni, even members of our community who want to connect with students or even want to form teams. So if there's any alumni who does have a small business and they want to hire some student interns or even for unpaid internship opportunities, they can post it there and just connect with students and other alumni and the startup community within UCR.
Awesome. Thank you, Ma. I appreciate that. For the rest of the panel, what I find most fascinating as I read your bios is, you have such a passion for your project and your business. What inspired you to start your particular business or entrepreneurial venture in the field you're in? So anybody can start with this Kubi, or actually I'll start with Kubi today first, and I'll go to Val, and I'll go to Xavier. So Kubi, go first. What piqued your interest?
Yeah, so for me, I didn't mention this in the beginning, but my first business was called Kubi Tees, and my nickname is Kubi. And so when I first started, I was selling t-shirts. And so I just, said Kubi Tees, and so that one was just selling t-shirts. But over time, it actually grew into me selling hoodies and selling art prints, doing collaborations. And through that company, I actually started an initiative that helps young entrepreneurs and creatives come together and grow together. And so what inspired me to just get on that path was, like I said, a desire to be independent and a desire to not have to rely so much on other people to buy ice cream. Like I told you, I was young and I just wanted to have some extra spending money, and starting a business was just the first thing I thought of, because I've always been inspired by, surrounded by entrepreneurship. And so that's what inspired me initially. But over time, I started to see like, wow, I'm actually able to create an idea and turn it into something. Like I can come up with an idea and I can see the final product and people actually like it. And so the more I started to do that and the more I started to see results, is actually the more I started to become more in love with it. And so now I'm at a point where I don't just have a business, but I have services that I sell. So I consult, I help people start their businesses. I help them, figure out the best path to go in terms of creating an idea and actually seeing it come to fruition. And so everything that I've done has definitely played a role in who I am today, in terms of an entrepreneur, in terms of a businesswoman, in terms of just being able to navigate a lot of different intersections that happen when you are trying to grow your business while in school, especially. I know pretty much everyone on the panel has either been involved with some business during school. And so if that's something you're thinking of doing, it's definitely going to take a lot of dedication. You're going to have to know how to manage your time. And I'll be honest, I didn't know how to do that. And so I had to learn the hard way through having bad grades at some points. And when I was able to take a step back and realize, like, I have to know how to prioritize certain things, and I have to know when to take time off from the business aspect of it, I was able to get more clarity. And I was able to really understand that you can be successful in entrepreneurship and you can be a successful business owner, but you can also be a great student, and you can also be able to have your degree to back up your, whatever you're doing. So for me, like I said, just being inspired by my personal desires in terms of who I am personality wise and wanting to be independent is what kind of got me on the route of entrepreneurship. But over time, it has grown into something more.
Awesome. Thank you. And Val, I know you say you started an audio business, a consulting business. What was your inspiration for going to those fields with your particular business?
Yeah, definitely. So as was brought up, is I played sports before, so I was always super, super competitive, and I always wanted to do something that competed. But the other thing, another personality of mine, is I love problem solving at all times. I mean, anybody who knows me knows that all the time I'm thinking of like 10,000 different things that I can technically problem solve and fix. But as an entrepreneur, you have to pick and choose which ones are the best ones. You can't do everything. So what happened was I actually did 2 study abroads during my undergrad. One was in Hong Kong and one was in Italy. And what I noticed is that in Hong Kong, they didn't care about customer service, but they used technology to be extremely efficient. And what I noticed in Italy was the complete opposite. They didn't use any technology, but they cared 100% about customer service. So I actually took both of those fundamentals, and that's what I realized in the Inland Empire. There wasn't enough focus on business development tied into digital strategies or digital marketing or consulting in that front. So I found that opportunity gap, because I do perceive Riverside potentially one day becoming a mini Silicon Valley. It has all the fundamentals for it, but it just requires technical capabilities. And students right now don't want to stay in the IE, and I want to change that. I want to make it a place where businesses can grow, entrepreneurs can thrive, and it's a fun place to be, even if you're young. So that's always been my vision that drove Free Logic Media forward. But as for Edgetown research, I'm a bit of a video game nerd. So the second that I saw the audio technology, I realized right away, like, I could put this into my game experience and make it amazing. And right away, it solved my problem, but I wanted to validate that that's what other people are looking for. And if you look at how the gaming industry is moving right now, it's heavily going into the visual formats, but audio hasn't even caught up. So you'll see soon what we've been working on, how it's going to completely change audio forever for you. So
I'm already fascinated by the audio, Val. I want to go audio. Just 3D surround sound. It gets me excited. And Xavier, I know you got involved in the robotics industry, and you've had some other opportunities. What inspired you to go venture to that business platform or that industry for yourself?
Yeah, so the first thing I cared about was entrepreneurship. I don't think there's any other way to do it. The robotics part was just, finding our initial customer, caring about what they actually need right now, what problem are we actually solving for them, and just realizing who that is. We kind of fell into the industry. We weren't planning for it from the beginning. We just realized, what's the bigger problem we can solve. And then we kind of just peeled the onion layers and just said, all right, this is actually our customer. It's fulfillment centers, third-party logistics firms, and specifically managers in there. And we figured that the problem was that the labor costs were getting out of control, and they weren't able to hire enough people to fulfill the e-commerce demand that was being brought onto them. And we kind of just fell into it. But we were always passionate about the people. What can we do to help both the end customer who buys from these third-party fulfillment centers, What can we do to make their lives better? What can we do to make the third-party business managers better? And after that was just problem solving. It's just talking to them, knowing what they needed, and then finding good solutions to, you know, solve the problems in iterations.
Right. Awesome. So there are a lot of things you guys shared, and I have some questions that came up from the audience. But this question I think is very important. As entrepreneurs, you understand it's a mindset, right? And so that can go so many different paths. But I'm gonna start with this question, and I'll see where it takes. And I may ask one of you guys to answer the question, which is, do you believe entrepreneurs are born, or do you believe entrepreneurs can be taught, how people can be taught how to become entrepreneurs? Who wants to take that question?
I'd love to take a jab at that question. Yeah, I would say that entrepreneur can be taught, but a successful entrepreneur, there are some things that you kind of have to be born with. And the reason why I bring that up is you can be taught how to do the fundamentals of entrepreneurship and how to develop a business, problem solve, and all these kinds of things. But it requires a certain type of mindset to be you have to be able to adapt, you have to take high levels of pressure. You have to be able to really handle like mental pressure quite heavily because it's a roller coaster of a ride. You have to be very comfortable in disastrous situations. All these fundamentals, it's not meant for everybody. And those are things that cannot be taught, because if you put somebody back against the wall and they've never experienced that before, you can see right away who's meant for that and who's not meant for that. There's two options. It's kind of binary. But as for the fundamentals around it, you can teach entrepreneurs and you can help them build a business and small business, but to a scale. So I would say that it's kind of a hybrid of both, but I would lean towards there's elements that you just cannot teach.
Kubi, I know she jumped up. She wanted to answer that question. Want to share something, Kubi, before I go to the next question?
Yeah, I agree with what he said. I think with entrepreneurship, though, it's really kind of boils down to whether or not you see a vision. Like, do you have a vision, and do you have the confidence to carry that out? Because I know a lot of times there are great ideas that people have and there's great plans that they create, but do you have the confidence to actually carry that out? And so if you have that confidence and you have a vision, then I think anyone could be an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship is so expansive. You can be an entrepreneur in the beauty realm. You can be an entrepreneur in technology. You can be, it's so expansive, and it just kind of boils down to the person and whether or not they're willing to lead and to have that faith in themselves. Because even the shyest people can, still create some $1 million products and run $1 million companies, but it's all about the confidence. And so I would actually say you can learn how to have that confidence, and you can learn how to properly display your ideas and properly follow through with your ideas, because that's just something you have to instill within yourself and go through a personal process to get. So even if you feel like you don't have the qualities at a young age, but you can definitely develop them over time.
Can I add to that real quick, Bert?
Yes.
I think so. I think the only thing that you have to be born with to be an entrepreneur is you got to be born with the want to be an entrepreneur. Everything else can be taught. Everything else is, it's just learning. But I think the only thing that really defines, who can and can't be an entrepreneur is people who actually want to be an entrepreneur. And not just for the money, right? You can get money in a lot of ways, but, you actually want to put out products that solve real world problems for real world people. That's the only thing that you need is the want.
Got it. That's a great segue to this question that came from the audience, and I'll ask one of you to respond to that. Was there any books you read that could help prepare you as an entrepreneur? So I'll take one person to answer that question. Xavier, you seem excited, so do you want to share for that?
0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, Innovator's Dilemma by Christensen, and I'm gonna leave the last third book to either Val or Kubi.
Anybody got a third book you want to share, Val or Kubi? And add those books in the chat there, Xavier, so people can see it also.
I would say for mentality focus, the book Learning Not to Give a F is definitely a really good book, because comparisons is the biggest issue that happens in society right now with social media and everything. So learning not to care about external opinions and focus on what you want to do, that helped me a lot with mindset and kept me on track to do what I want to do in entrepreneurship.
Kubi, I want to share. It's called Go for No. The book is about 25 pages. As an entrepreneur, learn how to deal with it. Go ahead, Kubi. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Can you hear Kubi?
Yeah, my connection is backside again, but I don't have a recommendation. But if you podcast, I would say like Entrepreneurship podcast. They have very authentic and raw conversations on that podcast, and a lot of what I actually realized today, I would recommend checking that out, so I don't get that mindset and that mentality.
Definitely got it. Thank you. And I mentioned earlier, I read this book I recommend called Go for No. It's about 40 pages max. I think any entrepreneur understands that we're going to deal with rejection on such a regular basis. So get a thick skin. If that's something you're not prepared to how to handle a lot of no's for the process there too from that. So which leads to the next question as far as hearing a lot of no's and rejection. This question that came from the audience, which is as far as you mentioned as far as you went to a pitch competition day here, I think in New York, and value presented at CES. First, I'll explain what does it mean to pitch? Because for those who are new to the environment, may not know what that means, pitch. And then two, how do you go about either seed funding or investors for your business? And anybody, first you, Xavier, and you, Val, can share about that.
Yeah, so the presentation in New York and almost any presentation that you're gonna have is one of two. Either you have your 30-second pitch, which is just to garner interest into what you're doing and the problem that you're solving. And then the second one is like, all right, if I'm interested in your 30-second pitch, give me a little bit more. And that little bit more can be anywhere between 3 minutes to 10 minutes. And it very much depends on your audience. All your pitches are very audience driven. So just know who your audience is and what your ask is going to be of them. If it's going to be just, hey, check out our website, or hey, can we sit down to talk about investment? That's what the pitches are. The 30-second one is just, if you had to meet someone in 30 seconds, can you quickly and clearly explain what problem you are solving and how and for who? And then the later presentations just very much depend on who your audience is.
Yeah. Can you briefly explain, Xavier, what does it mean to pitch? You say pitch again, because I know you talked about earlier, but those may be new to this ecosystem or this environment. What is a pitch? Use an example. What is a pitch?
Yeah, so I think as an entrepreneur, you're always trying to climb up the yes ladder. And what I mean by that is you're not going to get a meeting with an investor right away or a meeting with a customer right away. What you're trying to do is, give them more interest and more interest and more interest until they finally kind of fall and you kind of get to that step in the ladder. So when you pitch, all you're doing is you're basically, finding the right message that you're trying to communicate to whoever your audience is, whether that is an investor or a customer or someone else. And you're just trying to design it in a way that creates interest and hooks and, emotionally grabs your audience. And then 2, have a clear message, and 3, has an ask. That's the 3 things that I would put into a pitch.
Got it. Anything you want to share about that, Val, as far as seed money or getting investors?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is you have to know who you're pitching to. So you have to know your audience. So depending on what venue or what activity and what your overall objective of that pitch is, you have to really know how to curate it. So to put in perspective, when I was at CES, at that time, we had a technology, we didn't have a product. We actually had no idea what we were about to do. So I had to make the pitch about a vision, which is very hard to do because especially for new technology, it's hard to put that in perspective. But my entire objective of that was to get some potential partners interested, which it did. It garnered enough interest for us to then talk with potential partners. But as for investment, if you're trying to get seed capital and stuff like that, first, make sure your company is ready at that point. For example, like Edge Sound Research, my company, we're not even ready for it, but we're slowly approaching that time. Hopefully next year we're ready for some seed capital. But then when you do a presentation, make sure you really do your due diligence, know who you're presenting to, know who they've invested into, know everything, because you're presenting to an audience. They're the ones who are going to make the final decision. So you should do your research prior to doing any kind of presentation or pitch to make sure that the audience really understands what you're talking about and will have the effect you want.
So I want to pivot briefly on that topic there about pitching, because pitching is about presentation, just as much about style as it is about the substance with it, right? And could we mention briefly about the concept of having confidence in your business, and Xavier mentioned make sure you have a strong want. So as people watching this right now, who are trying to figure out, where do you get the confidence from as an entrepreneur, or how do you handle those levels of uncertainty or doubt? Because undoubtedly, entrepreneurship really is more of a mind game than a skill set game. So anybody want to go ahead and take that question?
I can tie it into the lens of sports. Like I like to refer to sports all the time. So the one person I heavily have looked up on philosophy is Michael Jordan. Obviously, just his mentality in basketball is very important to look at. But the reason why I look up to Michael Jordan is his mentality of being in the present moment. So as an entrepreneur, you do a lot of things that you're in very uncomfortable situations 90% of the time. You're doing things that you're not usually 100% ready for. The important thing is you have to live in the present moment. So that means when you're giving a presentation, a pitch per se, don't think of what can go wrong. Don't think of what the outcomes might be. Be in that exact moment, present, do what you have to do, and be comfortable because the results haven't happened yet. So don't think of what might happen. Just do what you need to do, and that's going to garner confidence to then be able to kind of push forward. So that's at least what I've learned, and I got it from a lot of athletes because that's the way they look at it and the performance scale. Entrepreneurs are the same thing. You're performing. So you have to think of how can you put yourself in the present moment to then garner that confidence to then be able to push forward. So that's my advice for that.
Mine is a little bit more controversial. I would say screw the confidence. Like, you don't need confidence. At the end of the day, when you're an entrepreneur, especially co-founder, you're just going to be told no all the time, infinity times a day. And you're kind of going for the yes at some point. And I would say when you're an entrepreneur, you're not really trying to convince someone that they need something. What you're trying to do is identify the problem that you want to solve and who you want to solve it for. And a lot of times it's just mostly you forming a hypothesis and testing it out. More of kind of like a detective almost. We're just trying to find the problem and the person that has that problem. And after that, it's just coming up with solutions and getting feedback from them on what that solution looks like and how it can be better implemented. But you don't need confidence. Just get rid of whatever confidence you think you need. Just go do it.
You had a great point there. And Kubi, you want to share something about that? Because you brought the idea of confidence. I know your network, it was a little weird. Can you share anything?
Yeah. My network is, again, unstable, but I stand on what I said about the confidence part because, as an entrepreneur who has definitely been through a series of different changes and wanting to grow and all that kind of stuff, I had to have the confidence to believe that the time and the effort that I was putting into my entrepreneurship projects and my business and everything else was worth it. I had to have the confidence to believe that at the end of the day, even if I was losing sleep or if I was getting no's, I could still pursue and continue to grow regardless of what people are saying. So you have to have confidence in yourself. I think even if you're not doing entrepreneurship, whatever you're doing in life, you have to have confidence. That's key to a lot of things because lack of confidence is what I see stops a lot of entrepreneurs from starting their business. It stops them wanting to go after somebody who they know they can turn into a client. It stops you from being able to put yourself in the right position. So if you don't have confidence, you don't have that foundational layer to put you in the right spots for everything that's going to push you forward, whether it's business, personal, whatever it be. So I say on that, and I think it's important to master that regardless of whether you're an entrepreneur or not, because you need to have some type of support in yourself, especially when a lot of the times as an entrepreneur, you're going to be doing stuff and investing time, things that no one else may see the vision for. So for me, I'll speak on my personal experience. When I started my own store, a lot of people didn't think that it made sense at the time. They didn't understand the vision for it. But once I started to bring in those sales and started to prove to people that, yes, this is a viable business idea, they saw and started to believe and they started to have the confidence in me that I already had in myself. And so I think it's important for everyone, regardless of whether or not you're an entrepreneur, to have confidence in everything you do because it's really going to be that little piece that's going to push you forward.
And you made a great point there, Kubi, at some point there is always going to be proof of concept, right? So between the idea of proof of concept and you're dealing with these rejections and you kind of, attract the right people to follow you, see your vision. If you have a team or just even take another route, you got team members, you got partners, or maybe you have people in your family that are doubting you, right? How do you keep them engaged or inspired during those process when you're going through those tough times of rejections or no's? And Kubi, you want to share real quick? I'm here. Kubi, you want to share about that?
So for me, I haven't had a team yet, but I have had advisors. I've had people who I incorporate into can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
I've had people who I incorporate into my process when I'm creating products and things like that. And so the way I keep people inspired is by just showing them my persistence, showing them that regardless of what other people are saying, regardless of how rocky things may be at the time, I'm still going to keep going hard because I see the vision clearly, and I've seen it be successful in the past, and I see it be successful when I put in the time and the work that's required. And so as long as you continue to come at 100% every single day, you continue to show that you have a plan and you have an idea of where you want to take things, and that's going to inspire the people to continue to show up as their best selves as well. And I think an important thing to know here is if something's not working for you, let's say you started a new product or you started you started something new, right? And you're not seeing the feedback that you expected to see. At a certain point, it's important to, of course, take a step back and analyze why you aren't seeing that result, because we can't continue to go into something 100% and it produce nothing, because at the end of the day, if it results in no money, if it results in nothing, then it's going to be a waste of time. So while you have to be confident and have persistence and keep people inspired, you also have to be aware of why things aren't working and what you have to change, and be constantly willing to take in feedback and apply that feedback in a positive way. So for me, I think just hard work and being persistent keeps people inspired.
Xavier, I see your head nodding a lot. You want to add anything to that?
No, it's just me kind of hearing and absorbing what she's saying. I still hold my viewpoint. I think, at least for me, confidence comes from practice. And as an entrepreneur, when you're doing things for the first time, you don't get a lot of practice. But it does take courage, right? So I would say confidence, I think it's a nice to have as an entrepreneur. I wouldn't say it's a requisite. Like, if you don't feel like you're a confident person, don't believe you can't be an entrepreneur because of it.
Right. So I have a question, and there's two questions my last 3 or 4 questions I'll ask, and we get ready for the close out here about 15 minutes. You know, this audience, as I mentioned, is comprised of people from the community, people from alumni, you know, staff and faculty, current students, and they may have this idea within themselves, or just maybe might just be a tiny little spark. What advice would you give them? And I'll give some of the bow if they were like not quite sure, for somebody who may want to become an entrepreneur. What advice would you give them? Who are currently a student, currently working a 9 to 5, alum, whatever. What advice would you give them, Val, regarding that first step you would say to go?
Yeah, absolutely. So entrepreneurship is a marathon, not a sprint. So that's definitely a very, very important philosophy to understand. So there's never a right or wrong time to start. So you can start at the age of 16, you can start at the age of 45. There's no right or wrong time to start. But the most important thing is when you start, don't try to take a massive bite at it. So what I mean by that is start with a hobby. Start with something that you might be passionate about, that you can dedicate a couple hours here and there, that doesn't overwhelm you, and see how that ties into your schedule. But you have to be consistent. So put that 3 hours, start with that, then put it to 6 hours maybe, and as you build up. You can do that with school. You can do that with work. I did it being an MBA student and working at Esri and TAing and everything. So it's definitely doable. If you fit into your schedule, you can do it. And then as you see progression, you can invest more time into it. As you see growth, now you might put in more capital into it. Now you can start building a team around it. But my whole idea around business, like building a company or startups, is treat it like a marathon. Just build every day, build a new brick to it. Eventually you're going to have a beautiful wall that you have built out, but it doesn't happen overnight. So don't try to expect results overnight. Don't have anticipations of things that might happen. Just slowly progress and build on a hobby, and eventually it'll become a business if you're really dedicated to it.
Awesome. Which is a good point. And I'm on something that's probably controversial, but I call them social media entrepreneurs. Like, you know, they talk about, hey, laptop lifestyle. You see them working different places, whatever, right? What is your take on that? Do you think those individuals give entrepreneurship a bad rep? Like they don't see the hard work, the boring part of entrepreneurship? Because most people of us know there's a lot of times it's not always sexy. It's really just kind of a grind. Anybody want to share about that? Your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, as for like leveraging, it depends. So if you build like a drop shipping business, for example, so for those that don't know what a drop shipping business is, a drop shipping business is you find a product on AliExpress. So AliExpress is a company in China where you can pretty much buy a consumer product, and you build a Shopify store. And now you build a brand around that product you're getting in China. And now you're selling it to a consumer for an X amount higher margin, and you're building a business on that. There's multimillionaires that have done that, and it works. It's an economy that works. But the reality is only about 5% of those businesses actually function because it's oversaturated. That's kind of like the cheating way of entrepreneurship, it works. Don't get me wrong. I give them respect. They found a market opportunity, they built it, but they built it fast. The reality of that's not how entrepreneurship really is. That's not for the mass majority of people that are trying to build a business. That's not for the mass majority of entrepreneurship. The other 95%, it is the day in, day out grind. But I think the smartest entrepreneurs are the ones that are trying to leverage these resources of social media or these informational gaps. So even my business for Free Logic Media, that's what we realized is that there's a huge disconnect between understanding like social media content strategy, website development, all these technical things that older generations might not understand, but younger generations live for and need for you to leverage into a brand. So I think if you find an opportunity to disconnect and you can do that anywhere in the world, good for you. And you're going to get a lot of value there. But if you're trying to do a get rich quick scheme, unfortunately, it's only going to work for a very, very, very small amount of people. Everybody else most likely will lose out money on that. And it's not very fun. You're not going to get a lot of value out of it.
Definitely. Kubi or Xavier, you want to say anything? As a Gen Xer, I didn't grow up with social media, so for me to see this happening is so fascinating. But I'll let my colleague, my younger colleagues, share about this. Xavier or Kubi, got a quick comment about that?
Oh man, I have another controversial thought on this. I think there's nothing wrong with that the drop shipping model and the social media entrepreneurs. I think it's a different flavor for sure. And I would say like if your expectation is like you want to be an entrepreneur to do that, like I don't think that's a bad reason. Like do it. I would say you're not gonna. It's not likely that you'll get there quick on your first try. But other than that, like I think what they're doing is fine. Like some people might take it and say, hey, like that's what I want to do. 100% do it. Travel the world, do drop shipping. You can. And that's just my opinion. Like there's no bad rep there. Some people work harder than others. I would say there's no nobility in just doing something more complex just because it's more complex. There's no nobility in just putting yourself in a difficult place in a difficult time. So just you do what you want to do. Do whatever business you want to do. Go for it. As long as you act on it.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you, Xavier. I think entrepreneurship has definitely changed over the years, and especially with the advances in technology, you can be an entrepreneur in many different types of ways. And so for me, the way I see it is if you have an idea, and it's not something like creating the tech company or creating the best hotels or creating something that's very large, and you just want to start small with something that you know how to do, that you learned in the education and knowledge that you have, it's okay. I think that's entrepreneurship too. I think entrepreneurship has many different sizes, and it can create success for many different people, because at the end of the day, success is something that's different for everybody. So success to me may be $100 every month. To somebody else, maybe 100 million every month. We know it's different for everyone. And so with entrepreneurship, I really appreciate how easy it has become with technology, because you can start literally a business tonight. If you wanted to start it, you could start it tonight because technology has made that possible. So it just depends, how much are you willing to spend time learning how to code a website, or how much time are you willing to spend learning how to be an Amazon FBA or whatever they call it. And so you have to be willing to obviously overcome that curve and be willing to test your limits in terms of learning new information. But entrepreneurship, I think it has new meaning nowadays, and I think that's a result of how much technology has changed over the years. So I think entrepreneurship can be that.
Awesome. One more question I want to ask, a couple of questions to wrap up here, is have any of you experienced any type of, how have you, if it has a pandemic affected your business, your particular business in your sphere of influence? Anybody can answer that question. Kubi, I got you first. Go ahead, Kubi. This is currently on the screen right now.
Yeah, for me, I've definitely noticed the products that I have. So for example, I sell t-shirts, I sell hoodies, I sell clothes for one of my stores, and the suppliers that I purchase from, they are lacking in supply. And so that's one of the biggest ways I've been impacted. But that just made me come up with new ways to supply stuff for myself. And so when, I think that's just a lesson. When you're faced with a roadblock, you have to come up with ways to be more independent. You have to come up with ways to work around that roadblock. And so I'm actually appreciative for that, because now I know new ways to be more self-sufficient. And so I haven't been
Thank you, Kubi.
for anything else, but definitely applies the biggest impact.
Thank you, Kubi. Sorry about that, Kubi. Val or Xavier, anything you want to share about, has your business been impacted by the pandemic? Or what's been going on currently? Either one go first.
Yeah, so I mean, as for one of my businesses, obviously the JBiz Barbershop, which is located right next to the campus, that one, unfortunately, due to COVID and restrictions, we had to close that down, and we were trying to find alternatives to create cash flow for it. So it's been a hard time for that business specifically. Same thing for like my mom's business. She has a small business. It's been hard because things that you do in person, like you can't, unfortunately, you can't just digitize everything, even though I try to find a way to do it. So I found some ways to do it in some aspect of the business. But as for my consulting service, it actually has increased kind of productivity and customers for us, because now everybody realizes how important a digital presence is in being able to digitize your business and have a virtual setting to do your activities. So as for consulting, it's skyrocketed. And then as for my audio company, it's actually increased our production, our development, because it's forced us all to kind of be stuck at home and just work nonstop. I don't say that's healthy, but at the same time, at least that's where our time's going towards. So we've moved faster due to being stuck at home than if we had time to kind of just do what we want to do. So, there's pros and cons to it, but I would say overall, it's definitely heavily negatively impacting majority of businesses. Only a small amount of businesses that can leverage digital mediums are succeeding out of it.
Got it. How about you, Xavier?
Yeah, so the COVID, like any other crisis, right, brings a lot of trials and misfortunes to a lot of people. But I think also what it does, it evens the playing field a lot for especially new companies and new ideas, because basically what you have is people start to reflect on what their priorities are, what their needs are, what they want. And so it kind of levels the playing field for a lot of new companies, because now you have, a zero-sum customer base that now wants different things because of this new experience that they have. So I think in general, if you're starting a company, one of the best times to start it is in or right after a crisis. And I would say don't let a crisis slow down your entrepreneurial spirit. Just a quick example, me and my friend have been, spotting ideas off of each other for about a month. And then on the 13th of August, actually, we had a new idea, and we launched on the 25th. So like a week and 2 days. So, it's not something that it shouldn't stop you, it shouldn't slow you down. But it does come with more, like any business starts with risk, but the playing field is a lot more leveled during and right after a crisis.
So 2 final questions for wrap things up, and I'd love to get a few responses for everybody. If you can, for the sake of time, try to keep it as short as possible. As entrepreneurs, we undoubtedly will grind many hours all day, every day for 8 days a week, 25 hours a day. And so how do you, as an entrepreneur, engage in self-care for yourself? And I'll let anybody start first with that. Go ahead, Xavier. Go ahead.
Another controversial opinion. I don't think there is, like, if you're an entrepreneur, like, there's not a lot of self-care going on in the beginning. You kind of have to, and this is my opinion on my worldview on the world, but like there's some things that you're not going to do. Like, I actively don't work out because I don't feel like I have the time to both do my day job in Amazon and start a business on the side. I do like 5 minutes here and there, but like I don't go to the gym for an hour. Sleep sometimes, like, sorry, you just gotta sacrifice it. You just gotta know what the minimum is that you need to work with, both emotionally, physically, and mentally, and then strive to optimize basically your production. But that's, you just gotta know yourself, and sometimes you gotta sacrifice, going out with friends. You gotta sacrifice sleep, and you gotta sacrifice, buying stuff. You're gonna have to make an investment.
Awesome, thanks. Now, if you want to go next.
Yeah, so for me, entrepreneurs have struggled with this. Self-care comes last a lot of the times, but it got to a point where I'm like, I can't continue just not sleeping. This is not healthy. And so I think it's a matter of knowing what that it's a matter of knowing that there's no rush, basically. You can have to take your time with it. I think Val mentioned this in the beginning. Entrepreneurship is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So if you realize that, okay, you can't complete every single task on your to-do list today, and you just take it one step at a time, and you make sure that you make a promise to yourself that you're going to spend 30 minutes either reading a book, you're going to spend 30 minutes exercising, you're going to spend 30 minutes just sitting in the bathtub, you're going to spend 30 minutes doing something that makes you relax. And make sure that you implement that every day, and you understand that it doesn't have to be all in one day. Because I know me personally, when I want to do something, I want to get done quickly, and so I had to make a promise to myself and know that if I continue to put my health and my mental health on the back burner, once I become successful and reach all my goals, I'm not going to be healthy enough to even celebrate that. And so you have to realize that, take time with it, and it's going to be possible so long as you pace yourself and you incorporate those things that keep you sane.
Awesome. Thank you. Val?
Yeah, so I mean, me and Xavier see complete opposite on a lot of ideas, but that's why we get along so well. I would definitely say that mental health, physical health, and all health, like relationship health and all these things should actually be at the forefront of decision making. And the reason why I say that is, even though as an entrepreneur, you do have to make a lot of sacrifice, a lot. And there will be times you're going to sacrifice sleep. There are times you're going to have to sacrifice going out with friends and your relationships and these things. But that should not be a permanent thing, and you should not do that all the time. And the reason I bring that up is because it's going to hinder your productivity. And as an entrepreneur, your main focal point needs to be on your productivity. How many hours per day can you actually efficiently create something or push something forward? And if you're putting too many things, you're not putting mental health first, or physical health, or these kinds of things, it actually might slow it down. So there's a lot of studies on, like, for example, on mental health, or how many hours you should be working per week and when does it start, like, your productivity just starts going downwards. There's been research on, like, the more you exercise, it helps for some people. It's a different personality trait. So like I said, me and Xavier kind of complete opposites of each other, but that's at least on my forefront. And that's a conversation I love to kind of further forward, obviously not during this, but with anybody who's interested in it, and just talking about how the pillars of health are so important for entrepreneurship, because it'll allow you to do that marathon versus just going these casual sprints and burning out, and you're not going to ever get forward with your venture and you feel stuck. So really taking that seriously, I think it should be at the forefront of decision making, but it always cannot be. You have to sometimes sacrifice it. So to Xavier's point, that definitely exists.
Got it. So final question to wrap up tonight. Thank you guys for your time here, May, Kubi, Val, and Xavier. So the final question to wrap up here for our final comments. Can we keep maybe 2 to 3 sentences? How, as an entrepreneur and as a person, do you define success? And I'll start with Xavier first. I'll go across my things. So Xavier first.
How do you define success? So I would say it's kind of, and this is so cliche, it's about the journey, not the destination. And this kind of builds also on the question from before, which is you just have to pick and explore and discover your own priorities, and then act on them. And I think success just comes from doing that every day.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Kubi?
I would say defining your goals first. So for example, if you want to start your business, that's success. If you want to make 10 sales this week, that's success. So it just starts by defining your goals and then executing them. So I think that's the basic way to go about it, because success, again, can be so different depending on the person and the situation. So I think if you set goals for yourself and a plan to achieve those goals, then you'll be more successful when you find that you're a happy person at the end of the day. So.
Thank you, Kubi. And Val?
I would define success as just being able to do what you love every day. I mean, that at the bottom line, I think that's what everybody should strive for. You should not be doing anything what other people want you to do. I define success as I wake up every morning and I'm excited to do what I'm doing. That for me is success.
Awesome. So with that, for my panel, I want to thank Val. I want to thank Xavier. I want to thank Kubi. I want to thank May for being on today's panel today. On behalf of UC Riverside and Launchpad, first and foremost, from one entrepreneur to my fellow entrepreneurs, I always wish my entrepreneurs success and prosperity and immense abundance in your business. So I want to thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to be a moderator today and be part of this conversation as well there today too. So I always thank UCR Launchpad for hosting this event today. It was a pleasure to connect with all of you guys virtually. which at some point we'll be able to do live in person as well there too. And those of you who currently were not unable to attend the recording, you will get a recording of this webinar as well there too. And those of you currently were on the webinar, you will get a recording as well there too. Hopefully you learn some valuable advice regarding the entrepreneurship journey and this process with it too. So as you guys see here, there's ways you can connect with us through UCR Alumni, Launchpad, and also learn about more entrepreneurial resources available here at UCR. We do have some upcoming events coming here as well there too. So you can see it currently on the slide as well there too. So on September 3rd, actually this coming Thursday, you have one coming up on the 15th of September. And our next Industry Insights actually is going to be on September 22nd there, 22nd. So hope to see you there. Love to see you guys at the next event. So with that, you guys have a great rest of the day. Stay blessed, stay healthy, and see you guys soon. All right, guys, take care.